You guys are all matching. All discussed beforehand. Board people are looking very serious, right? Boardroom conversations. Are you all ready for this? Okay, so we have a couple of very interesting questions because it's really helpful to know when you actually make it to the boardroom, how do we go about it, right? The leaders need to be equipped. And we thought, why not just hear it from our panel themselves? They have a lot of experience sitting in boards. What are things that they usually see, things that are, maybe we can all learn from, right? Things not to do, and also things that we can do better. So without further ado, let me just get started. Okay, so there's going to be a very honest, real conversation. We'll start with Tiong-gi. So Tiong-gi, you've been on many boards. What causes directors to mentally check out during a cyber or technology presentation?
Yeah, I've sat on both sides of the table as a CIO presenting to boards and as a board director of public listed companies, listening to CIOs presenting to boards. I'll tell a story before I get into the details, right?
Very well said. I think this is a session to take lots of notes. I can tell it and feel it in my bones already. Okay, so Ivan, you also advise and present at many boards. What is one thing that you find most CISOs getting it wrong when addressing the board?
Yeah, I think first of all, I want to say that I completely agree with Tiong-gi. And I often say to many people, I've been in tech for 30 years. I think the first 20 years, we were just trying to speak English, yeah? Because half the time, we were so very deep into whatever we are doing that we forget that a lot of people don't understand what we do, right?
I think that's really spot on because a lot of time that's the missing piece as well that enables you to pivot from one world to another world, and understanding that language is really key. So speaking of which then, Jonathan, you're not so much in the cyber, but you're in the space area, and that's also there's a lot of transferable lessons that we can learn. So if you talk about jargons, again, space will have a lot of them. So what actually makes a presentation stand out to you that makes it more strategic as compared to it being filled with so much technical language?
No, thank you, Shami. This is a very good question. Actually, 99.9% of the presentations to me are all technical and have a ton of jargon, and most of the time I don't quite understand what they are myself, to be quite honest. Crystal balling into the future is very critical. As a tech leader, even in cyberspace, it is the responsibility of the team to be able to see that far ahead. Right, because if you can't, then I think no business doing it. You have to really make sure that you can steer that ship forward. And these asks are not just for today's ask, but make sure you know the resources you need also for tomorrow, which is also a very clear indication for us as to what you actually know and you actually know what you're doing. Yeah.
I love that. So not just a business language, but a ability to talk about the future as well and paint that for them. So now I have a very simple task for you to see how it's not a technical task. If all of you can quickly grab that board, since we're talking about boards, grab this transparent board and you need to plug it into the power bank. Sorry, it was meant to be prepared beforehand, but let's see how efficient they can be. And there's a pen as well if you can grab one. Thank you. Yeah, we thought we'll make it a bit funny and a bit different, right? We're just going to see how quick they think. I know you guys look a bit afraid. They're not prepped for this, actually. But we're just going to go to a quick question, and then you're going to write a few sentences or a few words. A simple phrase is fine as well. And then we'll show it to the audience. Okay? So in a couple of words or short phrase, what do boards actually want to hear first from cyber leaders? Could be tech leaders for you as well. It'll be interesting to see how they think differently from each other, or is it the same? Okay, the first one to scribble finish can start presenting his answer to the audience. All right, Tiong-gi, look at you. All right, if you can show it to the audience. Okay, very nice. Ivan. I think it's hard to multitask.
I scribbled a lot, but then it's really about what is the current situation. Again, I think it always needs to relate to business. But I think more importantly, what do we know and what do we not know?
Great job. I noticed that Ivan is displaying forward-thinking behaviors by grabbing the cloth over there and starting to erase because we do need the boards again for the next question. So now you need to draw an emoji, an object, or an object or a word that comes to mind of your experience with most of the CISOs or CIOs that have come to you in a boardroom in a mode of crisis. Now, I've just painted a scenario for you. What is the first word that comes to your mind when you think of them? It could be an emoji as well. Go for it. Could be an object. Okay, Ivan. Good. You finished first. Go for it.
Yeah, I can't draw, so I think that most of the time, most CISOs don't want to talk to the board. And every time they go to the board, they are kind of in a shock mode. Yeah. You know, I think if you are a CIO, CTO, you have been a bit more prepared because you regularly present your forward maps and all that. CISOs, unfortunately, they usually are tapped on when, you know, things aren't going that well.
Yeah, definitely not fear-mongering, right? But then being really focused on the objective and to avoid being shocked, you probably need to be prepared and have all the tools ready with you. So that's a really good way to, really good tips actually. Okay, we're going to give your bots a little break for now. And we're just going to move quickly on to this part about me. Oh, we will need to bring it back soon. So, so you can keep it first with you. But let's dive into a bit more about talking about cyber incidents, right? So maybe to Ivan, you know, when a major cyber incident hits, what should a cyber leader never say to the board? And what and how should they lead with?
Yeah, I think one of the things, what I was trying to say, right, is most of the time people want to impress, right? And I think it's probably the worst thing to say that, you know, everything is under control. Because usually you won't be able to say that until a certain amount of time, especially when it comes to cybersecurity. That's the human nature. Thanks.
Yeah, very true. Okay, Tionggi, then we talk about how can we prepare beforehand, you know, because a lot of the times the relationships are established outside of the boardroom as well. So what advice would you give in how they can build trust with the boards long before a crisis happens? And bearing in mind, not everyone have access to the board directors too.
I think the most important part, of course, is to build trust with the CEO, right? So then through the CEO to the board. And these days, given cybersecurity prevalence, right? So a lot of boards also want access to the CISO and the CIO. Sometimes the backup doesn't work. So you just got to be prepared for it.
I know of a board chair that was with an organization that went through ransomware twice in 3 months. That was a horror story for them because it's about learning how to rebuild again, and before they could even get there, they got hit again. So the ransomware gangs are not nice people.
I mean, the organization will have to rebuild the entire thing. I mean, it's a good thing that organization is not doing real operational work. Can you imagine if you are a semiconductor company? I think you will be really screwed. You'll probably have to pay the ransom.
Yeah. And you guys wear the battle scars for those who have gone through it. So Jonathan, talking about emerging risk. What would you say are some interesting ones actually you've noticed, not just in your world, but what you're interested as well, that you feel more boards should hear about?
So specific, I think, to boards, I think maybe just to change gears a bit, I think one of the things that we want to hear also, especially when you talk to the leadership team, is on succession planning. Yeah, it's a bit different, but it's also quite important because as we look at technology areas, for example, especially in the areas of cyber, for example, or any of the other deep tech, you talk about quantum or any of the areas that require a lot of frontier thinking. We see a lot of visionaries and founders, and many of you probably in the room here, have early pioneers in this, and very few people probably at this stage, or maybe, all of us, every founder is very hard to replace, right? No one will say that I can be changed out until tomorrow. But then again, I think it's the board's responsibility and also the C-suite to make sure that you don't need to be changed out tomorrow, but please have a think about how, I guess, this planning can take place, over a period of time.
Yeah, very wise words as well, because it goes beyond, it's not just cyber risk, there's a lot of different components of risk, and thinking about the longevity of the board is key. So we're going to do a final lightning quick round. If you were to give one line of advice, and you can use the boards for this, you're giving this advice to cyber leaders who are going in to brief the board next week. What is one or a key thing that they should absolutely remember. Okay, it could be maybe a quick win on how they can improve their relationship with the boards, or it could be what a cyber alignment is going to look like with the boards. So, a couple of words on your board. I was going to say everybody's been very obedient. Jonathan, you got it? Okay, you start first. Very, very important. Well, I see a lot of people taking notes as well throughout the session, and I just want to thank all of you for taking time to share with us on this very important and meaningful conversation. And thank you, SID, as well, for powering this. Yeah, connect with Ivan. They have very comprehensive ways of preparing you to become a board director as well. So that's all we have for this panel session. Thank you, Kyung-gi, Ivan, and Jonathan. Let's give them a round of applause.